Um, Next, I would like to introduce Leonard Trinh. He's a lead hate crime prosecutor for the County of San Diego District Attorney's Office, and he has been a prosecutor for 16 years. Leonard, as a lead prosecutor, can you give us some expert opinion on how the hate crimes are defined and prosecuted? And have you seen the rise in the past year in the hate crime in the County of San Diego?
Sure. I'm going to share a PowerPoint as well. And if there are any questions at the end, I'd be happy to answer them. So in California, a hate crime is defined by a criminal act that's committed in whole or in part because one or more of the following actual or perceived characteristics of the victim. Their disability, and when I say disability, it can be a physical disability, a mental disability, and the disability can be permanent or temporary, gender or gender identity, nationality, race or ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, or an association with a person or a group with one or more of these actual perceived characteristics. And what that essentially means is, let's say you're at a Stop API hate rally and you're there as a white ally. So you're not a part of the API community, but you're there standing in solidarity with the API community. And someone sees you standing there with the API community and they target you because of your association or affiliation with a group that's standing up for API rights. You would be protected under California's hate crimes laws because you were singled out for that association. So that's what that means. In California, what we see pretty much year after year is that most of the hate crimes that are committed are targeting people because of their race, ethnicity, or national origin. So a little over half every year, pretty much for the last 25 years since they started keeping track of this information, has been race or ethnicity based, and that's pretty much true nationally as well. Sexual orientation and religion bounce back and forth between the number 2 and number 3 characteristic that's targeted most often, usually around 20% each, and then a smaller percentage, about 4%, are based on gender or gender identity, and an even smaller percentage are based on disability. What we saw the last year that data was available is that Black or African American individuals, if you're only looking at the hate crimes that target race, ethnicity, or national origin, overwhelmingly make up the greatest percentage of hate crimes that are based on race, ethnicity, or national origin. They make up almost half. And that's been true year after year for the last 25 years. It's true in California, and it's true all across the US. Now, if you look at this green section, that represents the API community. And what you'll notice from this statistic is that that API hate crimes make up about a little more than 8% of the race-based hate crimes that occurred in 2019. Now, remember, 2019 is pre-pandemic, pre-government shutdown, pre-mask mandates. And so what I fully expect to see next year is a pretty massive increase when the 2020 statistics are reported. They won't be reported until later this year. Usually in July of 2021 is when the Department of Justice releases their statistics. But we are, like I said, expecting a rise in anti-Asian hate crimes. I can tell you that in 2017, 2018, and 2019 in San Diego County, there were 0 hate crimes that were referred to the District Attorney's Office for review. Since the pandemic started in February, March of last year, we've been referred 3 anti-Asian hate crimes in San Diego, and a 4th one is currently under investigation by law enforcement. So already to go from 0 3 years in a row to 4 since the start of the pandemic is a pretty marked increase, in my opinion, and it's something that I think will continue in the coming months. If we go back to our definition, what confuses a lot of people in the public is what's the difference between a hate crime and a hate incident, and whether you should report only hate crimes or whether there's some value in reporting hate incidents. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the difference between the two. We know a crime when we see it. You know, if someone gets punched, if someone gets shot at, if you damage someone's property. Those are pretty easily things that people understand to be crimes. But what happens if people use hateful language, words? Could that be a crime? And we all know that the First Amendment says, Congress shall make no laws abridging the freedom of speech, and that applies to all of the states through the 14th Amendment. So generally speaking, speech alone is not a crime. What does that mean in the hate crime arena? It pretty much means that if you want to say something racist or homophobic or anti-Semitic, that by itself isn't a hate crime. It's not a crime if you say those things, if you hold signs that are denigrating a race, ethnicity, or the LGBTQ community. That by itself isn't a crime, but what we would consider a hate incident. Now, if you use that same language, but you hit someone, you punch someone, or you destroy their property, or if you threaten violence against that person, that can be a hate crime. And so that's where the freedom of speech no longer protects those actions, and we can actually do something about it. Now, is it important to report hate incidents to law enforcement or to the DA's office? It absolutely is. And we've seen cases where, like for instance, the elderly gentleman in Oakland who got shoved to the ground and then died. That wasn't charged as a hate crime. And if that person who committed that crime had in the past targeted other Asians or said anti-Asian comments, but none of those were ever reported to law enforcement, when we look at that one act, that murder, we don't have any evidence that they're biased. And so it's really important to report those things because they can help prove a later hate crime if one does in fact occur. So how do you report hate crimes and hate incidents? You can always call 911 if it's an emergency and someone needs medical attention or the harm or the suspect needs to be stopped immediately. You can contact 911. You can also contact your local law enforcement agency if it's a non-emergency situation. So if you have property that's damaged but the suspect is gone, you can contact 911. The type of information that you provide is crucial in a hate crime case. If there are slurs that are used, you definitely want to tell the dispatcher, you want to tell the officer that responds to the scene, you want to tell the detective that does the follow-up. You want to relay that information because if that information is lost, then no one will ever identify that case as a hate crime or a hate incident. So the language that's used, definitely important. Like Dr. Chang talked about when she talked about taking action, if you can take a description of the suspect, a license plate, a car, or better yet, if you can get a photo or a video, those things are huge. If you can do it as a bystander, you should obviously cooperate with the law enforcement investigation. So if you call 911, stick around with the victim. If you're not the victim, but just a witness, stick around and give them your statement, because standing in solidarity with victims of hate crimes can give them the courage to see the case through all the way to the end if they know that the other members in the community are going to stand with them. And then finally, we started a hate crime hotline last April when we started to see this uptick in anti-AAPI hate. And we were fortunate enough to have a DA who saw this opportunity to close a gap in how people can follow up on their criminal cases. And so we created the first online reporting tool in the state. You can contact us either by phone, and our phone number is listed there. I'll put it in the chat as soon as I'm done. You can email hatecrimes@sdcda.org, or you can fill out a form, a report online at our website, sandiegoda.com. You will get a response from me within the next business day. I will follow up on your case and let you know what the status is if you've reported it to law enforcement, or if you're just not sure if it's a hate crime or a hate incident, you can report to us. I will review it and I will say, this looks like a hate crime to me, you should report to law enforcement. So if you're not quite sure, you feel like you don't want to tell law enforcement because you don't want to waste their time, report to us. We will look at it. I will walk you through all the issues that are related to the case, and we'll get to the bottom of it. So thank you so much for APAPA for having me here. I hope I answered some questions. And like I said, I'll stick around to the end in case there are any additional questions.